Yo, what's happening? What's happening with everybody? Hopefully everybody's good. Listen, hopefully this whole situation finds you well and doing well, and you and your families. And but once again, now let's dive into this. Now, obviously, um, February. I'm a little bit late in the game. As I told you, I'm getting caught up on some things. But February is Black History Month, right? And that's always on my mind, right? Black History Month is always on my mind. And first and foremost, first thing that comes to mind, we just passed, his birthday actually, and so first thing comes to my mind is Martin Luther King. When you talk about Black history, right? I get it, prior to him or whatnot, but because his birthday was just, it was recent, right? I just want to start things with him, right? And I want to, dedicate this time to talk a little bit about him and highlight, his life or whatnot. But first of all, I just think it's very, okay. As I told you, I'm really late in the game, guys, and please forgive me for this, but obviously it's Black History Month. And I also believe that we shouldn't wait until Black History Month to start diving into the history of Black African Americans, right? But I just think that we should know in general and always, whenever there's an opportunity to talk about it or whatnot. So, but I just wanted to kick things off and start out with talking about Dr. Martin Luther King. Check this out.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. At the heart of their concerns, this query has often loomed large and loud. Why are you speaking about the war, Dr. King? Why are you joining the voices of dissent? Peace and civil rights don't mix, they say.
The nonviolent resistor not only avoids external physical violence, but he avoids internal violence of spirit. He not only refuses to shoot his opponent, but he refuses to hate him, and he stands with understanding goodwill at all times.
How long? Not long. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. These great experiences are not based on a bargaining relationship, not an if faith, but a though faith. And I'm coming to my conclusion now. And I want to say to you this morning, my friends, that somewhere along the way, you should discover something that's so dear, so precious to you, so eternally worthful that you will never give it up. You ought to discover some principle.
So, Dr. Martin Luther King was amazing. Was an amazing a public figure, philanthropist, civil rights leader, and definitely was marching literally in his calling, if you will, or whatnot. But Martin Luther King was the perfect example to do things in a nonviolent way, right? When you look at today, right, people protesting and things of that nature, and certain things are done with a level of violence, and Martin Luther King was consistent with doing things in a non-violent way. And I think that's the way that we should still move forward in today's time, especially if we want to pursue change, if we want to see change, we have to act differently. You know what I mean? And continue to push the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King, doing things in the right way and doing things in a non-violent, in a way of nonviolence. You will see instances where Dr. King was put in very bad situations, but he still acted according to the vision that he was the vision that he was pushing of nonviolence. And so, very sad to see him, assassinated in that fashion as well. But one thing I can say, and it's my personal opinion, but one thing I can say about Dr. Martin Luther King is that I feel like Dr. Martin Luther King was and I know a lot of you probably are going to not agree with me on this, and that's perfectly fine. But I believe that Dr. Martin Luther King is what a president should look like. And what I mean by that is that, to me, in my opinion, as it relates to the being a president, of a country, or let's just talk president of the United States, right? I think that that Martin Luther King was a good picture and a good representation of that. And the reason why I say that is because we say all the time, "In God we trust," right? When I was growing up in class, they used to, make us put a right hand over our chest, and we used to have to say, "I pledge of allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." And so, one nation under God, right? And so there's God again. And so, you see all these references of God, right? But when we have a leader, or when the president is in office, you don't really see them acting according to the saying, "In God we trust," acting according to what they used to make us pledge to, right? One nation under God. And I believe Dr. Martin Luther King, he fit that description. He was a preacher, but also too, he was very, very involved in the community, right? Very involved in the community. And this is a guy that you saw unite an entire nation, right? He united this entire country. And his influence was vast, in spite of the alleged things that came out about him, right? Obviously, there's no perfect person. Everybody just about listen. Show me a person that don't have dirt on them, and I don't know. I'm just saying, everybody has a level of dirt. Nobody is perfect, right? And so, but regardless of his past or anything like that, Dr. Martin Luther King, one thing that we do know is that he believed in God. And one thing that we did know as well is that he was about equality, right? And he was involved in the community. And so, and I believe that that's what a president should look like. If we're one nation under God, if we're doing in God we trust, I believe that I believe that our leaders should reflect that. I believe that our leaders should be able to see that this guy believes in God. You know what I mean? Not a person that's trying to get into office, right? And then so we see them in church occasionally or whatnot. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody that actually literally professes Christianity and that walks with God and has a relationship with God. I think that that is the type of president that needs to be running a country, especially if you're pushing God and you're putting God in the agenda, right? And so I believe it should be, one of the qualifications is that, like, they should be a spiritual person, right? I believe that should be proven, that they have a relationship with God. And so because they're putting God in the agenda. That's just my personal opinion. And I think that alone would put, a nation on the right track, or on a track, or putting them in a position to attempt to be on the right track. You know what I'm saying? Putting them in a position to be on a good trajectory. And so, but I've never seen it that way. I've never seen, a president that's really, that's shown that he's devoted. You know what I'm saying? That's shown that he has a relationship and that he really rely on God. And so, it just does something to me too, as well, is that when you have a leader that can really influence, and that can really encourage, that can really motivate, right? Dr. Martin Luther King, we know when he got up to speak, the effects of that, right? And it was an awesome speech, and it was a speech that required action. It was a speech that encouraged, and it was so electric, right? And that's the type of president that's what we need in a president. When a president is actually addressing a nation, I feel like, it should be an encouraging message, right, in conjunction with the business, right? And so, obviously, we understand that there's a natural part of it, but there's also a spiritual part of this, right? And a person that's going to be actually running a country, I believe that they should be spiritually locked in, and I feel like it should be proven that they're spiritually locked in, right? And that's just my personal opinion. So shout out to Dr. Martin Luther King. We remember him, and Black History Month. What do you do for Black History Month? What do you do to ensure that your future generations understand Black history and its essence and the importance of that? Also, too, if you go further down on my page, I did a piece on the timeline of Black history in America, or whatnot, and the slavery piece and how that all went down. Go check it out. You got to scroll down a little bit, and it's also too, I believe, on my YouTube page as well. And speaking of my YouTube page, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when we post new content. And so, speaking of president, what a great segue, I think, to talk about my next guy that I want to talk about. This guy is an actual mentor. One of my mentors that I follow from afar or whatnot, and especially when I was trying to get into the broadcasting space in my early years, when I wanted to talk sports. But I did hear something about this guy. I'm talking none other than Stephen A. Smith. In fact, I actually have been reading his book. Check it out. I think it's a great read, and it really talks about his life, man. His memoir. It talks about his life, and it talks about the things that he accomplished and he overcame as a kid, how he dealt with dyslexia, how he dealt with the dyslexia and things of that nature in his early childhood years, and how he just faced a ton of adversity. And now for him to be one of the, if not the top analysts in the, in the world, probably, or in this space, in this sports, everybody knows who Stephen A. Smith is. If you don't, then you don't watch sports a lot, but just about even people that don't watch sports a lot knows about Stephen A. Smith. Why? Because this guy, when he opens his mouth, it just requires attention. And so, and in fact, though, but he's been causing a lot of noise, on the back end as of late. And the latest thing that I heard from this guy, and was talking about president, I heard that he was trying to run for president. And so let's check out, what he said about that, and to get the full details of it. Here's what he said.
Listen to the exchange between the president of the United States and yours truly.
Stephen A. Smith may run for president, as you know. Do you have any advice for Stephen A.? If he launches the run?
No, Stephen A. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. I love watching him. He's got great entertainment skills, which is very important. People watch him. A lot of these Democrats I watch, I say they have no chance. I've been pretty good at picking people and picking candidates, and I will tell you, I'd love to see him run.
All right, there you go.
Oh, God. That is the last, oh, my Lord. I mean, I can't stop. Everywhere I've been, everybody's been asking me about it. But obviously, regardless of how some of you feel about him, he's still the president of the United States. And if the president of the United States sits up there and says something like that, it counts for something. I mean what I say, and I just want to reiterate the points that I'm making, and I hope y'all can understand where I'm coming from. I kept the door open for a potential run because elected officials and my own pastor said, you don't know what God has planned for you. You don't know what life's going to be like 2 years down the road. At least show respect and courtesy to the people who love and support you in such a venture by saying you'll leave the door open to any possibilities 2 years down the road, because you just don't know. And that's why I said I'll leave the door open. But I have never been a politician. I have never been interested in being a politician. No disrespect to any individuals. I just consider the industry that is of politics, where folks are professional beggars who perpetually owe favors. And that's not how I roll. Not only that, you see politicians clamoring for donations, and having fundraising events and all of this other stuff. I don't need to do that. I got a job. I'm earning more money than most of them will earn in a lifetime. So my attitude would be, why would I walk away from the life that I built for myself that doesn't have nearly the amount of stress that comes with such an occupation like that, to voluntarily put myself into that cesspool, because that's exactly what I consider it to be. Okay? So not only that, let me put myself on Front Street. I'm tired of people talking about me like I'm somebody walking around like I'm some aficionado of politics. I am not. I am a concerned, conscientious American citizen who pays attention to and cares about the issues. But listen to the exchange.
All right. So that's Stephen A. Smith. And basically, you heard it himself. You heard Donald Trump, our President Donald Trump, support Stephen A. Smith and encourage him to run. Stephen A. was talking about doing that in 2027. So here's the thing. And here's what I think about that. I think it's a great idea. Stephen A., we also know him for debating, right? And one of the things that you have to do to get into the White House is you got to be a great debater, right? You got to know how to debate. And I believe that Stephen A., would do great with that. Stephen A. is naturally talented to the point where, like, anything that he sets his mind to do, he will do it. All he has to do is study up on it. And that's what he's done over the years. He studied up on politics, right? And now he's taking that same fervor and applying it in the area of politics. And he's becoming better and better at it. And so to the point where he's respected, and to the point where he's on the major shows, and to the point where the president himself saying that he thinks that Stephen A. should run. Now, here's the thing. Stephen A. has been making a lot of noise because, for lack of a better word, and we've heard this term being used, but I'm using it just to describe the backlash that he's been receiving. But the African American community has been labeling him, in a sense, basically challenging his blackness, in a sense, right? They've been challenging that, right? Because based on some of the things that he's been saying, and some of the things that he's been commenting on politically, it gives off the impression that he's not for Democrats. Now, he does call himself a physical liberal, but he loves lower taxes, and I totally get that, right? But his thing is that basically what he's been doing is challenging the Democratic Party. And when he's challenging the Democratic Party, it's not coming off as a challenge to them. It's coming off to the Democratic Party, as if he is not for the Democrats. And so, which is why he's receiving a lot of the backlash and predominantly by the African American community. Now, there's also a large percent of the African American community that loves Stephen A. And I think it all started too when, to me, this is my personal opinion, on his show that he has with First Take, right? He had, it was a guy on there by the name of Max Kellerman. Max was really good, but it's a Caucasian dude, right? And but they would get into these debates. Now, Max, he has a little soul to him as well. And so, one in an instance, I saw a session where Stephen A. was getting insulted, and I think it was Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens, in fact, he was the one that did it. But he questioned Stephen A. blackness and said that, Max Kellerman is more blacker than you, right? And that sent Stephen A. it sent him through the roof. But those are the type of comments that was going on in the world of the athletes about Stephen A. Is that, Stephen A. ain't really for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's being said that the white man is controlling him. He's the white man's puppet, right? That's Those are the things that are being said about him. And I don't necessarily, and even with that as well, like he's also made comments about, a few of his people that, a few former team members that he used to work with and whatnot. And so, and some of them were the ladies and whatnot. And then the ladies got together and they started coming after him and questioning him, and it was being said that he was a sellout. I'm just painting the picture for you guys. And so, so it was really a lot that was going on with Stephen A. He's been dealing with, this past year and currently, and to the point where he had to go on and defend himself. He had to go on and apologize because he made a comment about Jasmine Crockett, and it was just it was just getting bad. It was just snowballing, right? And so I think these are things that he had to learn, crossing over into this space. So, but we have to understand in Stephen A's defense, first of all, the brother, he has a similar story like I do, right? And after reading his book, and I rock with him. I rock with him, and I believe what he said, and I understand what he's trying to do, but I also understand how it got viewed, right? And so, but we have to understand Stephen A's world. Stephen A, this is a man that has a ton of influence. You got to understand. He just basically told you that, he don't like, where it's looking like he's begging for money, right? And that's what people that are running for president, it's not begging, but what they're doing is they're raising money, doing it through a campaign or what have you. And so, but with Stephen A, he's like, I make money, right? So Stephen A has his own money. And so if he really wanted to do it, he could do it. And I think he just told us that he is going to do it. But the issue is that with Stephen A in his world of sports, because of his influence, whatever he says, basically it has a level of influence even in the sports world, the NBA, the NFL, right? This man has used the platform of ESPN, or his platform, right, his personal platform, but he's using it because he has that level of influence, and he's talked to managers of teams directly in the camera and told them, the decisions that they're making are good and the decisions that they're making are bad, right? It was so. Remember when the whole situation happened with Colin Kaepernick? Well, Stephen A was behind that, and Stephen A said, he was the one that was really advocating for Colin Kaepernick to get an opportunity or whatnot. And so he was talking to people on the back end. So the man has put himself in a position, started from the lowest of the low, and put himself in a position to have all of this influence. And so he challenges leadership of teams, through his platform, and he does it with the level of confidence. And if it's not a good move, he's saying that. And so, like, his words carries weight in that area. And that's what he's built himself up to, right? Which is why some of the athletes were a little bit upset and taken back by some of the things that he does. Like if he challenges them, right? He says certain things about them, they're taking that, they're looking at him like, man, don't you understand how powerful your words are, right? And so, but Stephen A, he put himself in that position. And now what he's doing, he's putting himself in that same position in the area of politics. And what he's done is that he's done great networking with a lot of people to the point where they are backing him. And Stephen A is a pretty powerful dude, right? And so, and kudos to him for what he's done with his career and the position that he's put himself in. And it shows you what hard work can really do for you. So with that being said, but the backlash that he's been getting though, and so he's taken that same energy, that same strategy, and when he's challenging the Democrats or he's challenging certain parties, he may say certain things that would challenge them, that would cause them to, in the sports world, to move a certain way. So I think he's bringing that same level of influence over into politics and doing the same thing, right? He's questioning things, right? And thinking that it would cause change. But what it's doing, it's ruffling a lot of feathers. And so it's really ruffling a lot of feathers, and a lot of the things that he does, it will give you the impression that, man, he's really, for the Republicans, man, he's a Donald Trump fan, right? That's the impression that you get from him. And but that's not really what he's trying to do. If anything, what Stephen A is trying to do is the same thing that he done with his career, because he built himself from the bottom up, right? Started from the bottom. Now we here. So he built himself, and so what he's doing now is that he's talking to the athletes and being a mentor for the athletes, and then especially those athletes that retire that want to come into a space that he's been in for 30 years or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so so with that being said, so he's coaching them, right? And so and he's providing that level of guidance to them. Same thing with the whole, with the whole politics piece of it. Because he put himself in a position of influence in the area of politics, what he's doing is that same strategy and that same mentorship that he's giving to athletes on the inside, right? This is what I've done. I put myself, I worked through my challenges, but now I'm in a position of influence. So I know what I'm talking about. Listen to me, right? That's the same thing that he's doing over here with the politics. And he's trying to rally, the Democrats. And he's challenging them. Check. Mike T1, check. What just happened? But he's trying to rally them, and he's trying to challenge them. He's telling them, but he's trying to rally them. He's trying to challenge. He's trying to rally the Democrats, and he's challenging, right? And he's doing the same thing. And if anything, what he's trying to do, he's like, listen, I've seen, leaders like Donald Trump, right? Stephen A. seen a ton of athletes, and he's seen, great athletes. He's seen, he had the experience to watch greatness, right? He had the experience to seeing, Stephen A. probably experienced everything that you could probably think of as it relates to leadership under the sun. And so and how he got to where he is now is that he did things very strategically. And so what he's trying to do for the Democrats is he's trying to educate them and let them know, like, listen, I have a level of influence and I have a lot of success. I don't know everything, right? But here's what I've done. So listen to what I'm saying. I know guys like Donald Trump, and I know how he works. So listen to me. If you listen to me, I can help you. That's where he's really coming from, right? He's coming from a place of trying to help. And with trying to help, how he's relaying certain things is causing, Black people to look at him like, is he really for us or is he not? Of course, I think that he is. The book says so. Some of the things that he says so as well. So I think that he is. I just think that he's trying to tell us, hey, listen to what I'm saying. Like when he was telling us that Donald Trump is coming, he was telling the athletes that Donald Trump is coming. He told him, he said, listen, he's coming. He's coming, right? You remember how it is when you figured something out and now you want to educate somebody else, right? That's all he's trying to do. Like, listen, I know how this guy is. I think I know how he works a little bit. Listen to what I'm telling you to do. He just do things a little bit different. He's not a person that's going to attack, the president. He's respecting the president and, him and his office, right? He's respecting the power that the president has, right? And I believe that's what Donald Trump likes about Stephen A. That Stephen A. is going to respect him, right? And that's, I think that's really what he really likes about Stephen A., which is why he speaks highly of him. And so, because when you really look at it, when Donald Trump's name is being brought up, around, certain people, it's not so positive these days, right? It's not so positive these days. It's not so positive these days. And so, but that's what Stephen A. is trying to do. He's just trying to educate us, y'all. So it's all right. We can let up we can let up off of him, or whatnot. And but just listen to what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to educate us, and he's trying to put us, hip to the game, right? He's trying to, let us know. And that this is just my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm just telling you that this is where he's coming from, and this is what I feel because I watch the guy on a regular basis. I listen to him on a regular basis. Him, Roland Martin, and things of that nature. And in fact, him and Roland Martin, they share words. Roland been in this space forever for politics, right? So he's looking at Stephen A. like, look, let me teach you something, bro. Like, you got to learn a lot about this area of politics. I've been doing this for a long time, just like with Stephen A. feel like I've been doing the sports thing, I've been doing the debate thing for a long time, right? So all he's doing is just saying like, hey, look, I'm a successful, known figure in the sports world. I've dominated this area. Guess what I'm about to do now? Hey, I want to do the same thing in politics. I'm shifting over, just like Donald Trump said. You know what? Hey, I want to be president. So that's my take on Stephen A. What do you think about it? I want to know what you think about it. I know I just went, around the corner and had a long dialogue about it, but let me know what you think about this. I thought that was really, really interesting. The fact that, he wants to be president, and I think it'd be a good thing, honestly. And I think it'd be a good test for him because he has a lot of feedback on what the Democrats should be doing and how they should do things and what they should focus on. So this really is going to put a lot of pressure on him, right? And he has to step up to the plate because now he's putting himself in a position to receive a lot of criticism. So that's it for me, y'all. Listen, until next time, stay safe, stay prosperous, stay healthy, y'all. We'll see you. All right. Deuces.